howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some PathOfExile discussion. Today I want to talk about Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage and why I think it's one of the most important of the new gems, and why I think it's going to be an important utility gem in a number of different builds. But I want to start with a question. You are probably not using Anger on your builds at the moment. How much better would Anger need to be for you to seriously consider putting it into your builds? Come up with a number in your head. So at gem level 20, its maximum damage is 155 and its minimum is 109. Come up with a number in your head as to how high that maximum damage would be before you would say, yep, I'm using this on every build that deals fire damage, and then maybe even another number where you say, I'm using this on every build that is capable of dealing fire damage. I think it's somewhere around 400 or 500, at which point I would feel compelled to use it on a fire damage build, and if it was dealing more like 1000 damage, I'd feel compelled to use it on any build that's capable of dealing fire damage, even if it's not really scaling it. Now, let us look at the new version of Anger, a much clunkier version of Anger, and that is Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage. Now, most people think of a mine skill and go, oh, that's a spell that I put down, I detonate it, and then it starts killing enemies. But 3 of the mines, Stormburst Mine, Pyroclast Mine, and Icicle Mine, also apply debuffs to enemies that are near them while they are still an undetonated mine. Any character can use this tech, but the Saboteur is going to be better at it because the Saboteur has access to Demolition Specialist. If you are using this tech and you are in the Saboteur Ascendancy, you definitely allocate this, no question about it. If you're a trickster or you're an assassin, you might even consider pulling this in through the use of Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh jewels, although I think that there might be quite a bit of interest in using those specific jewels in this league because of this tech. Pyroclast Mine is the one that has the most scaling of these. So Pyroclast Mine at gem level 20, and you can get it higher than 20, we'll come to that in a sec. Each mine emits an aura that causes enemies that are within that aura to suffer an additional 37 to 56 base fire damage applied to every hit that that enemy suffers. Now, this has a hard cap of 1249 to 1873. What this hard cap means is that no matter how many mines are affecting an enemy, no matter how much aura effect those mines have, the hard cap is still in place. So if you had 77 copies of Pyroclast Mine and they all had 777% increased aura effect from something, then you would still only be applying 1249 to 1873 damage to that monster. However, this is a gem level 20 aura. This maximum, 1249 to 1873, this is something like 12 times the damage that is added by the Anger aura. At this point, it's well into the terrain of I really want to be using this gem. So what are the hoops you need to jump through in order to make this work? Well, the first option is you can pay the reservation. If you're willing to do that, you probably need to get a lot of these mines down, and that's likely going to take linking it to Minefield support. At this point, the reservation is going to become extreme, and you're going to need to have a lot of unreserved mana in order to do this, because Minefield causes you to throw 5 mines at a time, but also causes each of those mines to reserve 40% more mana. So that ends up being 168 mana each time that you throw down your Minefield, and you're probably going to want to throw down 4 of these Minefields so that you can get maximum effect against at least a really tanky monster. When you're clearing, you might be able to clear without this tech, or you could just throw down 1 set of Minefields when you come to a moderately tanky rare, but if you come to something that's really tanky, you're probably going to want to throw down 4. So you're going to want to be mapping with 700 or 800 unreserved mana, which in practice means that you're sacrificing an aura. Additionally, you could consider socketing these into March of the Legion, which will give you a whole bunch of extra levels on the gems, and maybe then you will decide to attach enhanced support as well. Note that increasing the gem level through March of the Legion is probably also going to increase the mana reservation required for Pyroclast Mine, because this looks like the sort of skill where the reservation increases with gem level. However, there is another way that you can do this. Now, this way you're only going to be throwing 1 mine at a time, so it's going to be clunky, and you're also going to be limited a bit more by the amount of mines that you can get out practically. And for that reason, I'm going to recommend this primarily if you're on the Saboteur Ascendancy, where you can get 150% increased effective auras from mines, and therefore get by with a lot less of these out. But this is going to be particularly good if you're making a dedicated bosser that's going to be killing bosses that have long invulnerability phases. Enter Essence Worm. During the boss's invulnerability phase, you throw a whole bunch of mines on the ground. These reserve exactly 0 mana because you're using Essence Worm, and they've also got +2 gem levels as well. You're not going to be able to use any other auras on yourself as a result of using Essence Worm, and so it's a huge opportunity cost to do this, but the payoff is definitely there. You are getting a staggering amount of additional damage out of this setup. It's going to take a lot of experimenting to work out which of these setups is best, but Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage should absolutely be on your radar as a gem to consider using as a pure utility skill, not as a damage skill, but as a pure utility mana reservation inside patch 3.23. It's worth noting that a similar version of this effect was available in patch 3.21, the Crucible League, and in that league there was a 5th column mod that could roll on Crucible weapons that would cause Pyroclast Mine to inherit some of the effects of Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage. This was used extensively by Deep Delvers, because Deep Delvers have to deal with monsters that can have tens of millions of hit points, hundreds of millions of hit points, or even into the low billions up to the hit point cap of 2 to the power of 31 hit points. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. This is my pick for the most important of the new gems, not because it is a primary skill, but because it is an extremely powerful and quite universally applicable utility skill that does a lot, albeit at a very high cost. You may not be able to fit this on your build, but if you can fit this on your build, especially if you're dealing base fire damage, and especially if you're igniting with it, then Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage will definitely pay you off for doing so. May your gem transfigurations have interesting effects.